Welcome to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and this podcast is your guide to start creating a lifestyle by design. From entrepreneurship, money and finance, taxes and residencies, and everything in between, this show highlights the nuances of a true global citizen lifestyle. Let's dive in. Marco and Alyssa, welcome to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. I'm very much so looking forward to our conversation today, but before diving in, I'd love to hear a little bit about each of you, your stories, your backgrounds, where you started, and how you have gotten to where you are today.
Awesome. Yes. Well, Alyssa, why don't you start? Why don't you start out with just how, because you're the one who kind of connected us as well to this podcast. So why don't you introduce?
Okay. Well, my husband was in the Navy for 11 years, but he started a few businesses while he was in the Navy, and I was the supportive wife of him in his entrepreneurial endeavors. And it wasn't until just recently, I guess, I don't know, all throughout that process and that journey, I helped him in his businesses, whether it was like working out the problems he was having. I managed a couple of the businesses, or I worked with him and we did things, we collaborated a lot. And then, I was kind of lost myself. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be in my life. You know, I was taking care of kids and supporting my husband, and I was just clueless on what I wanted to do. And then I was introduced to Marco. And Marco is a life coach for entrepreneurs. And I didn't think I fit that bill. I was like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And after working with him, I realized that I have a lot of ambition, a lot of goals that I want to accomplish in my life. And so working with him kind of unlocked my confidence in going for those goals and going for those ambitions. And so now, after going through his training, I run my own podcast, and it's targeted towards helping other women find fulfillment and joy in their journey through all walks of life. And I also am training to be a life coach with Marco, and I am his event coordinator. So I plan a lot of his events. And those are things that are very fulfilling and very exciting for me, that when I was, with my husband and supporting him in his businesses, I didn't really think that was in the works for me. But after working through some mindset stuff, I realized that I can do so much. I have so much potential and so much opportunity available to me that I didn't see before. So that's a little bit of my background. You want to go ahead, Marco?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Alyssa. And Alyssa's awesome, because Alyssa had so many desires, and we connected very well because she's very creative, and she had big dreams that she hadn't let go of. I think she was feeling down. She was feeling low in life because she had big dreams, but they weren't being realized. And I consider myself a mindset coach, like a mental performance coach for entrepreneurs, to help them be able to balance those kinds of emotions where they have, on the one hand, they're very creative and they have big aspirations, big dreams that they want to reach, but the other hand, they get frustrated because they're running up against some roadblocks or unmet expectations, or for some reason they're not reaching the levels that they want to reach. And so I just help them figure out how to use their mind in a better way. So really what Mindtune does, what we focus on, is mindset stuff. It's everything about how to use the mind, how to keep the mind clear. Mindtune is the name of the company. So how to tune the mind, how to tune your mind so that you're moving in a good direction. And I'm super excited to be here with you, Nicole, because we focus on, it's work travel. Is that right? Work, travel.
Work, wealth, and travel.
Work, wealth, and travel, right? So we're in all those areas, right? We help people work better. We help we like to connect people from different cultures and bring, help people realize that the whole human family is really very, very similar, very similar in terms of our own potential. And so we do trips that help people expand their minds and expand their worlds by traveling different places and seeing how different things are, help people get out of their own perspectives and out of their own way in that sense. And then the wealth as well. I've got a system that helps people to get into the flow that helps them gain more wealth and continuously expand their not only their fulfillment and satisfaction in life, but also the money follows. The money follows that. You tune your mind and then you get out of your way for a lot of things and open up the path for a lot more success.
So interesting. And so the way that I got introduced to the both of you was from a previous podcast guest. And we dove into this topic a little bit, but I shared with them that the mindset aspect of business is something that really just since the beginning of 2024, it was more of a New Year's resolution to learn more about, to dive into, because I can be and I'm sure you see this a lot from your clients, I can be very analytical. And so I think for a lot of people, some people, of course, not everybody, but people like myself who are very type A and analytical, when you start becoming an entrepreneur and you have a business idea and you're kind of growing something on your own, you don't realize how important the mindset aspect is to your success. And so that's something that I have been learning more about and continuing to see more and more success in the business. And it's just, I'm not an expert by any means, but it's so fascinating what I'm learning as I'm going. But Marco, you mentioned something in that I kind of want to extract and talk about in more detail. And it's very general. So you said that you help people learn how to use their mind in a better way. So if we're talking about an entrepreneur or somebody who is wanting to start something for themselves, what does that look like? And I know that's a very, very general phrase, but I want to really hone in on that and hear more from you about what that looks like. How do you use your mind in a better way?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's all about quieting the mind, right? Quieting mental noise. Your mind will function very well for you if your mind is calm and if your mind is clear. But when you've got worries and doubts and fears and pressures and hurry and rush and all these things in your mind, you block your mind and you block your access to your subconscious mind. And so there are some entrepreneurs who start their businesses and start their companies with a lot of rush and a lot of noise in their mind. And so what this process would look like for a new entrepreneur is to first prioritize quieting your mind, calming mental noise before you even think of what you're going to do, before you even think of your goal or what kind of business you'd like to start. Because otherwise you might be creating a business for the money, to be able to make money because somebody else said that was important. Or somebody else said, or their parents did this certain thing and so they want to do it so they can feel validated, or somebody else. Anyway, you want to look at your motives for what you're doing. But the beautiful thing is that when you quiet your mind, when you calm your mind, you can access your own desires and what you want. And what you want, Nicole, is different from what Alyssa wants, from what I want. We all want different things. We all have uniqueness. And so the quieting the mind helps you access your uniqueness, where you can step out of the competitive world where we're just competing with each other. And it's more about creating. It's more about expression. It's more about drawing out from within what you have and sharing that and doing. And the entrepreneurial world allows you to do that without limitations. You're not limiting yourself to somebody else's structure, but you can expand your own structure and you get to work with an infinite source. So nobody's putting any limits on you.
Interesting. Okay. So diving deeper into that, what are some of the best practices that you see? And I'm sure it can probably vary depending on the individual, but what are some of the best practices that you have in your tool belt to help quiet the mind? For me, I immediately think about meditation, but I know that's difficult for a lot of people. So I'm curious if there's anything else out there.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people think of. But Nicole, there's something. This kind of goes along the lines of mental mechanics, and this is a study that in Mindtune's history really goes back about 50 years. And my dad has written a lot of books on this topic, and he's done a lot of exploration. And he's a traveler. He's lived in 7 countries in Africa and all over Latin America as well, different places. But he came up with this concept called mental mechanics that really kind of opened my mind up and kind of was the start to my inspiration for Mindtune. And mental mechanics is really powerful. It's about it's helping us understand what is the best way to use our mind. Most people don't take a lot of thought as to how they're using their mind. They can think with their mind, they can analyze with their mind, they can judge with their mind, they can do all kinds of things with their mind, but they don't think about what is really the most productive way to use my mind. And so you want to understand that you've got a conscious mind, and you've got a subconscious mind. And each mind has its specialty. And the subconscious mind is one you hear about a lot, that's incredibly powerful, that can help you solve problems, that can help you work out complicated situations, that can help you find answers to questions you've been asking for a long time. It can help you find the solutions. It also can help you just access wisdom. What's really going to make you happy? It can help you access what you like, what really you enjoy. That's in the subconscious mind. But we're working with our conscious mind. Like when I first came on this call, I saw you, Nicole, and I saw Alyssa here, and I'm looking at Alyssa that has like a frame in the back of her wall, and I'm using my conscious mind to see all those things and just notice these details of things. But that's the mind that I'm conscious of. But I could also use my mind to think, what are they thinking about me? What if I fail on this call? What if something happens? And you can start thinking that way, and you can think, oh, I hope that the thing that happened last time doesn't happen again. And you can start to use your mind to judge yourself, to judge other people, to just analyze things like, Alyssa has that painting on her wall, but what does that really mean? And does that, and it kind of reminds me of something that in my past, and you can just analyze it, and your mind can go all these different places. But as soon as you start doing that, you can go down into a place that creates distortions in your mind, or it creates blur, and it takes away the clarity. Your mind is really good for being outside. Like if you're outside, or if you're just paying attention to your environment, even this pen that I'm holding, I can look at the details of this pen, what it feels like, if I touch it, the texture of it, I can feel that. So I can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and be just present. And that's what my conscious mind is really good at. It's really good at doing that. But when I start using my day to analyze, and I'm constantly in my mind about how am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to deal with my teenagers? How am I going to, oh man, like I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do in this? And you're constantly analyzing problems. You're tiring your mind. And these questions, like what am I going to do, or how am I going to solve this this immigration issue, whatever issue that you're dealing with, you might have a problem you're trying to solve. How do I solve it? Well, that's a question that you could delegate to your subconscious mind. Remember, that's the one that gives you the answers. That's the one that can help you solve complex information and complex challenges. And so there's a way to delegate that to the subconscious mind. And then your conscious mind goes back to just focusing on the here and now, the present, what I'm touching, what I'm tasting, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, and two of those, Nicole, we do in Mindtune. One of our initial trainings is called Touch and See. It's all about learning the power of staying in the touch and in the see, and what you can see and what you touch, and learning how to come back to that when your mind starts getting into this analysis. And if you notice, when you start doing that, by the end of the day, your mind is exhausted and you just want to sit and veg on your couch for a while because your mind has been so exhausted by all this analysis. But using your mind in a different way, you can delegate these problems to the subconscious mind, go back. And by delegating, I mean, for example, you could set an appointment with yourself for 1 hour from now to look at the problem again. But in the meantime, you're just going to focus on what you touch, what you see, and just stay very present. And you can even do your work while you're staying present. You can do that 99% of the time, is you can stay in that present mode.
Are you interested in becoming a global citizen and living a lifestyle by design in a country that aligns with you? If this is a lifestyle that you're seeking to create, we can help. Whether it be multiple residencies, citizenships, bank accounts, trust or company formations, we operate in 30 plus of the most tax-friendly jurisdictions around the globe to get you structured properly. Head to the link in the show notes to learn more and to get your global citizen journey underway today.
So can I expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So something that I've found really helpful when I have those ruminations, because sometimes it's really hard to, even when you're trying to touch and see, to get out of that mindset because you're so worried about those things. Like it's very easy for us to continue to ruminate on those things. So I like to call it giving the storm form. So taking the storm in your mind, the things that you're worried about, the things that you're thinking about, and putting it on paper or talking it out to someone or a voice memo or something. And what Marco was saying was like, you put it out on paper and then you set an appointment for yourself to look at those problems again an hour from now or the next day or whatever it is. If you have a deadline, right? You put a timer, you put an alarm, and like, I'm going to address those in a little while. But just getting that storm out into something more concrete, it allows you to like let it go. And then you can do that touching and the seeing and focusing on the here and the now and the present, because sometimes it's really hard to focus on the present when you still have that storm in your mind. So that's another tool that I've found has been super helpful, is just getting it out, getting it on paper, and even like spending a minute where that's all you're focusing is just like, what can I feel? What can I see? And slowing everything down, it allows you to gain more clarity. And that's when your subconscious mind starts feeding you those answers. So when you come back to that problem, it's all of a sudden you're like, oh, I had that thought earlier today. I think I know what I want to do with that. It's really cool. It's a really cool practice. So just wanted to.
Nicole, I know we just keep talking here, but we've all felt this. We've all felt the power of touch and see. We've all felt the power of being in the present moment. Like if you just think back to the last time you were walking with bare feet in the sand on a beach or something, or gardening, you're moving dirt with your hands, gardening in that way, or even taking a shower, or just feeling the breeze and paying attention to that breeze, or even feeling the rain falling down on you. Like all these things can be very relaxing. And that's where entrepreneurs get a lot of their best ideas, is in these moments where you're just in tune with the touch and the see. And so, but a lot of people think that they can only get those moments of clarity when they're on vacation, or when they go, they take a vacation to be able to get that clarity. But what we're teaching is that there is a way to use your mind where you can stay in that place, even when you're dealing with lots of problems. But it's just knowing how to use the conscious mind, knowing how to use the subconscious mind, and not getting the roles mixed up, not using the conscious mind to do all the problem solving and the deep thinking and all that stuff. You just weigh down your mind and you minimize, you lessen your overall capacity.
So interesting. This is such good information. So what you have both said as you're speaking, it's reminding me of something that I heard a while ago, and I don't know from where, but it stuck with me because it is in a way what the both of you are saying. And so somebody mentioned to me that, I don't know if it's true or not, but Jeff Bezos, we all know who he is. And they were like, he has so much money, he could hire somebody easily to clean his kitchen and specifically do his dishes. But he chooses to wash his own dishes every single night, and not hire somebody for that. And so then they're asking me, like, why would he do that? And I was thinking, like, I don't know. That seems so silly. You guys know where this is going. And then they said, or maybe I saw it written down somewhere, but what I saw next was that is his time to think things through and to be, I guess, somewhat disconnected, kind of like when you're in the shower as well. You're just doing an action and you're going through the motions, but your mind, or perhaps your subconscious mind, is elsewhere and is thinking of problems, ideas, like new things that otherwise would potentially not be coming up for you. So I think that is what you are saying in a different way, which I think, I had never heard this specific quote, I guess, about Jeff Bezos, but I thought it was really interesting because I think in today's day and age, we're so preoccupied. There's a million things to do. You could be busy every single second of the day, especially with social media, if you really want it to be. But there's so much importance that needs to be put on just being in the here and now and doing something that maybe would otherwise be mundane.
Have you heard of the concept of mindfulness?
I have, but probably not very in detail.
Okay, so this is a practice that I started after I met Marco. I just came across some books. It was crazy because when I met Marco, all these opportunities opened up and everything just started showing up of like confirming what I was learning and adding to it, and it was amazing. But one of the things that I learned was mindfulness and how effective mindfulness can be at calming your mind down and keeping it clear. So mindfulness is sort of like what Marco was saying, is the touching and the seeing, but you're really focusing on your senses and you're focusing on right here, right now. And that gets you out of thinking, what's next? What's my next big project? What's my next big thing? Because like Marco's saying, your mind gets worn out when you're constantly filling it with what's the next thing? What do I do? Like all of that stuff. So, and for me, especially now, I'm a mom of 4 kids and I'm an entrepreneur now. And so I'm very busy. And so sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed with all of the things that you have to do or that you're choosing to do and all of the work that you have. And I've learned that being mindful, so like being present right here, right now, in this moment, I am here, I am thinking, I am feeling, I am seeing. It allows me to give my best performance, give my best to whatever task I'm doing, whether it's being with my kids or being on this podcast. It's like, I am here, I am present. I'm not thinking about what's next. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm here. And then it allows me, when I have those ruminations, when I have those problems, it just all of a sudden a thought comes in that I didn't have before, that I'm like, that's the answer to the question I had. Or I have somebody talks to me and they tell me something and I'm like, I was thinking about that. Oh my gosh, I needed that so much. And these things happen, but only because I've been able to calm my mind down and I'm present. And I don't know, that's, to me, being mindful is just being aware of what's happening right here, right now, with your senses, with your what you see, what you feel, what you can taste sometimes. Like there's an exercise that the lady that I learned mindfulness from talks about, using a raisin. Use chocolate, use something, but just practice, like, what does that raisin feel like in your hand? What does it smell like? Like, what does it look like? And then put it in your mouth, but don't chew it. Just feel it with your tongue and feel what does it taste like? What does it feel like? And then slowly start biting it. But all your focus is on this one thing. And it provides so much power and potential to that one thing that you're doing. So that's something that I've found has been super helpful in applying this principle.
Yes. And one of the cool things, Alyssa, I love how you describe that. What it's doing is it's calming your conscious mind, because your conscious mind, what your conscious mind specializes in, what it does best is focusing on what you see, what you touch, that's what it does best. And so you are forcing it to do what it does best by focusing on that raisin, on the feeling of the raisin in your mouth, in your hand, whatever. And it's like you're calming your conscious mind. And then as you keep in that place, it's like you get these thoughts, these inspirations just kind of come to you and things flow to you. And And that's the power of the subconscious mind. It's when you're connected to the subconscious mind, it feels like these ideas that you've been searching for just kind of flow to you instead of you trying to fabricate them. You're not trying to force them. You're not trying to create them, but it just kind of comes to you. And maybe we can mention the concept of of song, which is what we talk a lot about in Mindtune, which is that everybody the biggest benefit of calming your mind down, of having this quiet mind, is that you get access to your own, what we call song, right? Your own song, your own uniqueness that you can express, that is uniquely you, and then you get to live that. You get to live that song, and one of the biggest joys of my career, Nicole. I didn't really talk much about my background, but when I was younger, I used to like to draw, and I did some singing with my family. I grew up in Mexico, and I lived in, we moved around a ton, and I always wondered how I would use my background, like how I would use my languages, how I would use my artistic things, and I could not figure out what I was going to do to make a living. But then, anyway, what this journey has done for me is it's helped me realize, quieting my mind has helped me to trust my uniqueness and trust that there's something there that I can share, right? And so after all these years, what I'm doing that's so fulfilling is I'm using the music, I'm using the drawing, I'm using the languages, I'm using the nature, like all these things that were my passions when I was a kid, like it's all being put to use instead of me doing what I did for a few years, which was work. I had a corporate jobs. I was doing other things that they were good, and they were good for building skills, but they weren't me. There was always something inside of me saying, there's something else. There's something else that's me, that's just going to feel like uniquely me. And so that's really what we're about, is helping people to access that feels like it's uniquely them, because that is it's probably the very, very top of Maslow's hierarchy of fulfillment, is when you feel like you are living your uniqueness, you're expressing your uniqueness, you're doing what you are uniquely qualified to do.
So interesting. So thank you both for really putting that into perspective. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else talk about this particular concept. So staying on that topic, but also somewhat of a different topic, I'm curious to dive into how language affects our mindset, the language that we use in our thoughts, the language that we use when we speak about ourselves or to ourselves, the language that we use when we're speaking to others. I'm curious what the effects are, and positive and negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a lot to say about this, but if you want to talk, Marco.
Go for it, Alyssa. You start us.
I think language has a huge impact on mindset. Huge impact. Like the way, even it's not even verbal language. It can be just the way you think and the way that you're talking to yourself in your mind. And that can set the tone for your success. It can set the tone for your business. And I think when you are feeding yourself certain things, both negative and positive, you're going to get those things back. So, for example, I use affirmations, and this is something that I don't think is new. People know about affirmations, but I use affirmations every single day because I want to be that person. I want to have that money. I want to be successful. So I tell myself who I want to be, what I want my future to look like, what kind of person I want to be, what kind of mom I want to be, what my business should look like in the best possible scenario. And I tell myself these things, and I visualize these things, and I feel these things. And that says something to the universe. It says something, and it says, these are the things that I'm going to get. These are the things I have. And the universe is like, all right, I'm on it. I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you quick. But if you're sitting there and you're telling yourself, I need money, and I can't afford this, and I really need more sales, and I don't have enough clients, those are the things that you're sending out to the universe. Those are energies, because everything has energy. And that's an energy that you're sending out, that the universe is going to come back and say, you're right. You don't have enough money. You can't afford that. You don't have clients. You don't have sales. But if you're telling yourself and you're telling the world that you are successful, you have all the money in the world, you have all the clients in the world, everybody wants what you have, that's what the universe is going to give back to you, because words have power. And I don't mean that like fake. I mean, like, they literally have energy and power. So when you're talking to people or you're talking to yourself, that's what's going to be received, and that's what's going to be given back to you. Do you want to expand on that, Marco?
Yeah. There, so many people agree on the idea that we become what we think about, right? Like, all the greatest minds in history agree on that one idea, that we become what we think about. So that's really not a new idea. And the concept of like affirmations, and that your thoughts become feelings and your feelings become actions and your actions become things, that idea really isn't that new. It's so powerful, and it's important for us to learn that idea. But the problem in the world is that people's minds are so busy that they have trouble implementing that idea. Like, they know that if they become what they think about, so if they can change their thoughts, they can change their life. But most people's minds are just too busy. Like, they're going. They're too speedy. They're too rushed. They're too everywhere. They're too disorganized. And so where Mindtune comes in is just helping people learn how to still that, how to slow down their thinking, how to calm down their thinking, so that they can actually make the changes. Because otherwise, it's like you spill some juice on your shirt. Like, I could be eating breakfast and I spill some juice on my shirt, and then, like, oh no, why did I spill that? And this shirt was so expensive, and my bank account is just depleting, and oh my goodness, I'm the worst provider, and I have all these problems, and it just like goes down this negative spiral. And all that happened was you spilled juice on your shirt. That's the only thing that happened. But it's like it was an automatic reaction that you're going into the negative place. You're going into these thoughts and everything. But what Mindtune does is it helps you think in a way that helps you widen the gap between stimulus and response. So, like, a stimulus happens, but your mind is more calm, and you can proactively choose what your response is going to be. You can choose to go a different way. You can choose to respond differently. And so, yes, people know that what you think is what you become, but it isn't so easy for people to do, especially in today's world with social media and everything. People's minds are too fast, they're too busy. And we show you a different way to think that just helps you slow it down so that you can actually change the way that you think.
Yeah, so you can make that shift.
Yeah.
I think that is really important, to slow your mind down enough to be able to be like, this is how I want to think. Because for a really long time, I mean, everybody has a story that they are telling themselves their whole life. They're telling themselves that they're this way, or that when this happens, this always happens, or I'm never good enough, or they just tell themselves stories, and that's implanted in their brains. And it's years and years of work that they've implanted in their brains. And what Mindtune does is it slows your brain down enough to plant new seeds. So, like, you're able to calm down and you're able to slow down enough to realize, hey, that story I've been telling myself, I don't think that's true. I don't want that to be true. I want it to be this instead. I want to be successful. I want to be amazing. I want to be happy. And you start feeding your brain those things. But the best way to do that is to slow it down, because otherwise those seeds that you've planted for years, they're just going to automatically pop up every single time. But if you learn to slow your mind down, that's when you can start planting new seeds. And that's where you see the growth, and that's where you see the change.
Yeah, and I think, you're both absolutely right. I think one of the biggest struggles for everyone, and that I've personally experienced, and I'm sure you both have as well, is reframing the thoughts and the thought patterns that you've had for either your whole life or many years. And it's hard to always have thought one way, or always have thought about one thing in a specific way, and then completely have to shift that Before we end off, I guess I'm curious if you have some quick tips for anybody listening, because I think this is one of the biggest initial struggles when somebody's trying to really reframe their thought process. It's like, what are some top tips that you would have to actually go about reframing that when you've thought this way for the last 20 years? You know it's not serving you, but even though you try to think positively, maybe it's not something that you're fully convinced of yet. And so you just kind of default back to that negative energy and negative thoughts.
Yeah. So the biggest question the most important question I like to ask people is just, what do they want? What do you really want? What do you really want to achieve? And what do you really want to do? Because to be honest, this process of tuning your mind, of thinking in a different way, it's going to require effort. It's going to be something that you carry with you wherever you go, and you're going to like start touching and seeing wherever you go and learning how to use your mind in a different way. But why would you go through all that work? Why would you do it? It's because we have a way, and this process that we teach is a way that will help people get what they want. It will help people get what they want. And so it all starts out with step number one is you got to figure out what you want. You figure out what you want, and which also can require some quieting the mind, like step away from things for a little bit and just ask yourself, maybe going out into nature or something, ask yourself, what is it that I really, really want, right? And then you make a decision that you're going to do that. But then you can work with a mindset coach, or you can, then you can start implementing these techniques, because mindset is a strategy that will help you get everything that you want. But you've got to, and so it's interesting that like Alyssa, you see Alyssa today, and Alyssa like is always protective of her mind. She's always like trying to keep her mind good and keep her mind in a good place, because she knows what it does when she takes off, when she stops being protective, or when she becomes careless about what she thinks about or what she's doing. And so when you gain this awareness, this level of awareness, you start being very protective about what you allow in your mind, how you're using your conscious mind, and how you're not using it. And so start out with just a goal and ask yourself, what do you really, really want? Decide on that thing. But then that will motivate you to do some of the boring things that we teach. It's not going to be boring when you've got a goal behind it. But then it's about, okay, let's learn how to slow down your mind. And there are so many exercises, Nicole. You can, I think the one that Alyssa mentioned earlier was really good too. Like when you have one of those negative frameworks that keeps coming up in your mind, get it out of your mind, get it onto paper, just write it out the way it is, and then look at that and ask yourself, is that what I want? Okay, it's not what you want, but why do you keep thinking about it? Just because I'm in the habit of thinking about it. And so what we have the opportunity to do is take that same sheet of paper, and below it, write what you want to be thinking about, what you want to be creating in your life, and start intending that. But then you've got to get into this, or then I suggest that you get into these disciplines of training your mind, and calming your mind down, learning how to slow things down, and learning how to use your conscious mind correctly.
Yeah, I would say you asked how you reframe your mind, because you have these stories in your mind all the time. And I would say you have to have your why. You have to have the reason why you're going to do it, because you have to have the intention to do it every single day. You have to feed your mind what you want to be thinking about all the time, because the minute that you stop caring, the minute that you don't take care of your mind, the minute that you aren't feeding it those positive things anymore, your subconscious mind is going to revert back to its habits, revert back to what you've been telling it for years. And so that was a big thing for me, was like, I didn't believe so many things about myself. My confidence was so low. And so I was like, but I want to be these things. I want to be confident. I want to be a good mom. I want to be successful. I want to be all these things. So I wrote down, I am a great mom. I am successful. And I did that for 30 days, I think, before I started believing it. And now I still write it every single morning. I write the things that I want to be and what I want in my life. I do it every single day, because the days that I don't do it, my mind wants to revert back to what it used to tell me all the time. So I think that's a huge thing, is just know, like, you got to be committed to it, because it takes work and effort. And every day you want to be making sure you're filling your mind with what you want, because otherwise it's free game, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but the work isn't work. Something that Albert Gray, I think is his name, who wrote the Common Denominator of Success. He says that people who commonly experience failure because they're focused on pleasing methods. They just want a pleasing method. They want it to be easy, right? But people who commonly experience success because they're focused on pleasing outcomes. Like, they want the pleasing results. And so they're willing to do things that are a little bit more difficult, to learn certain disciplines, because they want the big thing. And so, again, our suggestion is, you pick a big goal. You pick a goal that you have no idea how you're going to achieve, how you're going to do it. And you choose that goal, and then let us or somebody you work on your mindset. Let us help you, or you work on your mindset so that you can let go of all the garbage, and you just stay focused on that thing that you really want, and allow yourself to experience the growth that happens when you're focused on a seemingly impossible goal, on a big thing that you just have no idea how you're going to reach. And when you start to get into that world, then it's like magic. You're like, holy cow, I'm never going to think logically about what I can do again, because I can make quantum leaps. I don't have to take just one little step at a time.
Really so interesting. I know we could dive into so much more here, but it's already been 40 minutes. So where could people go to find out more about the both of you?
Yeah, awesome. So if you go to mindtunenow.com, you go to our website, and you can put in your information to get on our mailing list, and you can get a free videos. We have a training, a mindfulness training that lasts all year. You have a PDF that comes to your inbox every week for a year that helps you learn so many of these tools, and it's free, right? So you can get on that, and I would start there. And then you can browse the website and see the trips that we do, and the trainings and the musical concerts and these things that we do that are unique to Mindtune as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for being here, and thank you both for sharing what you have learned throughout your journeys and your practices as well. It's really interesting, of course, to hear it from those who are doing these practices every day firsthand and seeing the changes happening day to day in your life.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Nicole. This has been really fun.
It has been fun. It's been amazing. And I look forward to learning more about what you are doing. It sounds really interesting. Just the name of everything you're doing connects a lot with me. So
yeah, absolutely.
You've just listened to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. If anything from this episode resonated with you, I would appreciate if you share this podcast on your socials, and of course, be sure to tag me. And don't forget to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining me on this global citizen journey, and I'll see you in the next episode.